Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming back. Thank you to the Takaho community. And I would like to once again show you how grateful I am for the opportunity to be in here and share with a lot of you this passion for architecture and things that we can apply to our own lives, right? Before we start, I just want to tell you, this is one of my favorite subjects. Number one, because it makes a huge impact. And number two, because we all can do without too much effort. So it's very exciting. I am smiling ear to ear, being able to share this with you. So let's say today is our class number 4, and the title of this class is Setting the Mood with Lighting. We're going to tell how artificial lighting can affect human instincts. Yes, human instincts, feelings in an environment. Asking the following question might appear very trivial. Why is lighting essential to architecture? The answer may seem obvious, but it should not be. It is impossible to imagine a space without lighting. Ironically, and pay attention to this, is lighting is often one of the last components factored into a project budget, far behind materials, plumbing, or even equipment. Still, it's a crucial feature that gives life to absolutely any project. It should not be regarded as a mere add-on. And with that said, I now invite you to discover the ways in which lighting can shape individuals' experience in a given space and how lighting can set the mood to your environment. Let's go? Yes? Welcome to our class number 4. As always, please make sure to make notes, write your insights, and make it unforgettable, because this is, as always, a chance to apply everything we're going to learn in right away. Same materials, let's make notes. We will use less materials today because we'll be more listening to all this new acknowledgement and making notes, and have your curious mind ready and questions at the end as always. As a reminder, this is the group of 4 classes that we had already. So we had History of Architecture and Town Planning. That was our class number 1. Then Understanding the Basics of Architecture. And our last class is when we were learning how to draw and write as an art, that even the calligraphy, right? We learned a little bit less time. And today is how lighting sets the mood of everything around us. And with this light here, where we say the secret will be unveiled, today we'll educate our eyes and learn the secrets from different environments. We probably don't pay attention to it that often because it's part of our nature, but light goes straight through our eyes, and it has what we call the output rhythms. It affects our psychology and affects our behavior. Did you ever stop to think about it? If yes, give me thumbs up. Yes, right? And this is exactly the area of the brain where this is affecting. It's called SCN, and that's what SCN stands for. And it stimulates our retina, our hypothalamus. It's a very complex neural center in our brain responsible for things like reproduction, core temperature, memory, emotions, behavior, metabolism, yes, and even depression. And a lot of this is stimulated by light, even our hormone production. Now you say, how is that connected to architecture? Well, we design with light. The majority of the information that we receive about the world around us comes through our eyes. Light is not only an essential prerequisite, it is the medium by which we are able to see. And through its intensity, the way it is distributed, and through its properties, light creates specific conditions which can influence our perception. Lighting design, in fact, is the planning of our visual environment. Good lighting, and that's important, good lighting design aims to create perceptual conditions which allow us to work effectively and orient ourselves safely while promoting a feeling of well-being in a particular environment. No wonder why when we go to a theater, a museum, we see those lights guiding us when it's a little bit more shady, the area, right? If there's not enough light, we always find something for safety. Now let's go and make our memory bring us back moments when lighting is very unique. Usually go to a retail store and there's a lot of light, right? The lighting on the product, it can be a grocery shop, it can be clothing store, it can be technology store. But now let's travel through, for example, Abercrombie and Fitch. If you ever visit this store, you will notice that lighting is quite unique there. This is a photo of the Fifth Avenue store where there is absolutely no natural light from the outside allowed on the inside, right? A corner photo. Every window is closed. Then, when they were putting that together, they had a lot of light and they were trying to make you wonder what's inside. It's a secret. So, right in the beginning, they had focus light just so you could take a photo, but everything else was dark around it. Then you get in, it's still everything is super dark, but you focused on the items that are trying to be sold. What is behind this concept? The concept is trying to attract one targeted client, which usually are the teenagers. In that age group, they realize by analyzing their human instincts, they're trying to hide most of the time. They like doing things secretly. So to that extent, they decided to do less lighting in this store because they realized they would feel more comfortable in a scenario where there would be less lighting focus on them and more focus on what they are trying to buy. So they used the human instincts through the lighting. It's all about lighting. And to help people travel through the stores, in this case on the Fifth Avenue store, they only added the light on the stairs and on the product. Look at that. Interesting, right? That's someone going down the stairs. Well, that goes back to designing with lighting. Light plays a central role in the design of a visual environment. The architecture, people, and objects are all made visible by lighting. As you know, light influences our well-being, the aesthetics effect, and the mood of a room or area. It is light that first enables what we see. Our perception of architecture will be influenced by light. Light defines zones and boundaries. Light expands and accentuates rooms, and light creates links and delineates one area from another. And to make this very tangible, think about Halloween. Halloween, we think about blue color or orange color, right? We attach a lot of light to that concept or less light. You go to a hospital, do you see a very dark place or a very bright place? Blue light or yellow light? So we create all these boundaries and zones. For example, if you go to a restaurant, is there more light in the corridor and less on the tables? More light in the kitchen? So all of this we use in terms of boundary creation. Also to accentuate room. Let's say you have a party room where you need less light, right? So you're going to control that room. You're going to expand your possibilities. In addition to illuminating, let's think about how does lighting affect perception. In addition to illuminating a space, light transforms the way we perceive the colors around us. Very important to remember that because natural light influenced by the weather, season and position of the sun and moon affect the intensity and hues of the subject. Artificial light also alters how we discern color. Today, we here in Takahau, some of you are not in Takahau watching this class today, but in Takahau, we had a very great day. today? And you talk to people, everybody's a little blah. Said, how are you today? I don't know. I'm not okay. And then you look outside and say, it's gray. But it's not that the sky is gray. The sky gray is making everything not as colorful. And that is how we perceive the color, right? That's how all these hues of the subject, this intensity, are being taken away because we don't have natural light. Interesting, right? Sometimes we just think about the color of the sky, and the same goes for artificial lighting. If you don't have the right color of the artificial lighting bouncing on every subject around you, you're not going to enjoy, and it's going to affect your mood. And talking about human instincts, I like bringing this chrono program on the left, and it says the eyes have it. Let's do an exercise together. With your left hand, close your left eyes. Your left eye, now you only have one eye. You still see a lot, right? But if you try to look at the left, you don't see much. Now let's do the other side. Now we still see a lot, but we don't see much on the right hand side. Now let's remove and focus to the center. You see everything on your left, on the right, but without focus. Everything is focused in the center. So that's why, as humans, we're not only attracted by light, but we also attracted by pyramids, triangular shapes, because that's how our vision forms. So in this scenario here, field A is our left-hand side eye, and field B is our right-hand side eye. And the intersection of those two ellipsoids is actually what we have our focus, center vertical ellipsoid overlap of both eyes. So with that technique, what happens is that when we go in a retail store, for example, most of the time, and you can start paying attention to it, you see things displayed like this. The rule of three. Look at that. In Windows, you're going to start noticing that, and you can start doing that in your own home. Grocery stops, they try to put it together like this, because the moment you see this shape, we are attracted to touch it or to go inside a store. The moment you start paying attention to all of this around it, you're going to see how lighting is making a big difference. And that goes to the subject where we talk about lighting effects, illumination of 3D objects. And this is a perfect way to understand how much of a difference it makes. And you can start doing that in your office, in your home, irrespective of size. A three-dimensional artifact must be illuminated from several different directions. Light from multiple directions, combination, key, fill, and backlight will result into this. Okay, so take a look at this bottom photo right here, where you have a key light only. Look at the amount of shadows you have on this object. It makes you have a certain perception on this. Now this is fill light only. Look at this. Now the shades are where? On the sculpture, right? And now this is backlight only. Look, you can barely see what the sculpture is. And when you combine those three styles, which is key, fill, and backlight, you have what we call different angles rendering a material variation with lesser or greater emphasis. Interesting, right? Sometimes we just tell our cabinet guys and say, look, I want my bookshelf to have upper lights, built-in lights, backlights. And then we don't realize that it won't be a combination of all of them. And maybe what we're displaying is not enough. So color temperature, write it down. It's very important to remember how much it affects and where the light is coming from, because lighting is all about understanding what the shades are going to be. And there are different types of light when we design. One is what we call direct light. So in these two scenarios on the left, these types of lighting are what we call direct lighting, coming way right above from the ceiling. And it can be in different spots like this, or it can be a big center of what we will call skylight. There is also what we call indirect light, which is a very different effect. And just like the sculpture, most of the time you can combine both in an office, in your home, where you do sometimes a wall sconce and a ceiling light and a table lamp and a floor lamp. Isn't that true? So indirect lights, for example, this one hanging from the ceiling, you could choose to have bouncing light to the top only, or to the top and to below. Same thing with the wall sconce. You could choose to have above and below. And lighting goes beyond our five senses. Now, this is something very interesting. No wonder why this is my favorite subject to share. Lighting affects our five senses, as crazy as it sounds. And with that said, it affects our six basic instincts to survive. So one of them is fear. Thank goodness for fear, because if it wasn't for fear, as humans, we wouldn't be able to survive. So lighting affects that instinct of survival. It affects our anxiety, our anger and frustration, our sense of regret, depression, and one more, loneliness. As crazy as it sounds, these are our six basic instincts to survive. And then you ask me, Carolina, but how does lighting affect it all? Let's think for a moment. I believe most of us, or probably all of us, experienced fear before in our lives. Am I right? Probably, right? And when we are in fear, we tend to look for a shelter. That's going back to our first class when you spoke about shelter, creating architecture. When you think about a place to shelter, you want something calming, right? Where your feelings are going to be taken care, and it's going to infuse all of this beautiful feeling back in feeling okay. So that is where lighting comes in. You can adjust all of these instincts to survive by making sure that you know what to go forward. So now that we talk about anxiety, let's look at this beautiful closet. I don't know how many of you paid attention that in closets, usually we hang items that are more expensive and where we're going to use probably in a party or in an event or in a celebration. And we fold those that are less expensive and we use in our routines. Did you ever stop to think about it? But most likely everyone's closet is like that. You're going to hang the most desirable ones and you're going to fold the ones you don't use as often or you use as very often, but it's not that expensive. Same thing with the items you're going to decide to display outside of the box. You want to make sure that it looks presentable. Well, in our unconscious mind, this is probably because where you can see the light effect on the object clearly. Interesting, right? And that's probably where if you have downlights on top of this cabinet, that's exactly where it's going to be. Now, let's go to this option number 2 here. You see how the colors are affecting the subject? Look at this. Less light, it gives you a warmer feeling, right? And again, you're still choosing to fold and have less light here and hang it and have even more light here. Now look at this. The more you add, the less opportunity you have to employ lighting effects and shades to whatever display. You see what's happening? You only having front light. And let's go back to our sculpture example when we spoke about fill, back, and key lighting, right? You're reducing the opportunity in displays. Now look at this kitchen. This kitchen is mixing all of those types of lighting. You have desk light, right here, doing a wall wash on this backsplash. Then you have cabinet light inside all of this display area. Then you have pendant light giving you this nice glow on top of this surface. And you have the ceiling light, which is your general lighting, plus the natural light. What I would like to phrase here is how important it is to think about all sources of lighting and how they must coordinate, especially color light. A big problem I see sometimes is when you go to a project and this is one color temperature and this is another color temperature. And let me explain that. Some of you are familiar with the term, so I apologize if I'm going to be repeating that. But when we say color temperature, if you go to Home Depot, for example, you can choose your light bulb. There will be an opportunity for you to choose between a 2700 Kelvin or a maybe 3500 up to 6,000. Kelvin is the unit that helps us measure lighting. The lower the number, the more intense the light is. I'll give you an example. A 2700 Kelvin is very warm light, so it's going to be close to yellow. And a 6,000 Kelvin, so the more you go high, the higher you go on that scale, the colder it is, the blue color is going to be present in the light. Ideally, in a project like this, you would not mix color temperature. So whatever you tell the person helping you to buy light bulbs, you say, oh, I need for my ceiling lights 3000 Kelvin. I need for my lighting pendants 3000 Kelvin. Same thing for my LEDs under the cabinet. Same thing for this. So it looks consistent and your mood is going to not give you anxiety, because sometimes you might not know why you're feeling anxiety. It's just because all of this color temperature, it doesn't make any sense. But we don't know. It's all talking to our five senses. And look at this, how much it changes from this. Isn't that incredible? It's affecting the subject, but you're also reducing the light from the object. So in this case, this is all painted in black and you reduce the source of light. You don't have any lighting inside the cabinetry, but you reduced the lighting on the object. So it gives you a warmer feeling. Talking about warmer feeling, in the first slide, we were talking that sometimes you can make it romantic, right? So when you talk about feelings, you start giving adjectives to your project. Lighting has a lot to do with that. If you, like me, you're looking at this and you're thinking this is very romantic, you are absolutely right. But look, you can be romantic with different lights, right? This you add in a lot of natural light and a lot of artificial light by adding 2 table lamps. The moment you're going to close the windows, that's it. You're going to have a lot of interesting lighting. And look at this dining room table. You're choosing to have your natural light plus your beautiful chandelier. And when you talk about chandeliers, I brought you these 3 pictures on purpose. Because sometimes we go buy a piece of lighting fixture just because we want a beautiful chandelier. But we got to think about what kind of lighting we want. Let's do an exercise and analyze this first chandelier. What kind of lighting are we getting out of this? This has a shade. This shade has a light color. And this shade is going to allow us to bring the light below this unit, above this unit, and will be fading through this beautiful fabric. So you're going to have a lot of it without being too much for your eyes. Now let's go to our second photo. Do you think we're going to have more lighting coming out of this or less? If you answered more, you are correct, because we're not having any diffuse effect on this light, which is what this shading is doing here. So you're diffusing the light on all areas that are going horizontal, right? Vertically up and down, it's coming through, but you're fading the light. So here, you're not fading the light. So if we were to draw this light effect around each one of the light bulbs, it would be a big circle. So these big circles would be um, intercepting, just like our vision of eyes, those two ellipsoids, when we had ellipsoid A and B, they were intercepting. That's exactly what happens here in those chandeliers. So we have a huge amount of light, which will probably be perceptive to our eyes. Now let's go to this scenario. Look at this, the third photo. We angling this shade, which means we're reducing the amount of light that will be entering the top, and we letting it become bigger, the lighting that goes to the bottom, and we diffusing even in a higher rate than this, because we have not only the fabric, but we have a secondary fabric with a dark color. So if that's the effect we're looking for to change the mood of the space, then you're more than welcome. And with that, I remind you how important it is to know beforehand what kind of mood you want to that space before defining the design of the light fixture. I hope that was a good suggestion. Next time you buy chandeliers, wall sconces, or whatever you're planning to change your home, your office, your space, that you will remember that. I said, wow, I never stopped to think about shades, shapes, correct? Let's go to our next. We spoke about a few different residential projects. Now, let's see. Let's go back one. Let's see this photo. I gave a little bit up about it last class, where I said, did you ever think about the condition we as humans are when we eating? We are actually vulnerable when we eating, like all animals are. So we tend to hide when we eating. And that goes to restaurants as well. So when people walk into restaurants, they tend to fill up first the tables around the perimeter. The last ones to be filled usually are in the center. Why? Because that's again, our senses of survival, anxiety, fear, regret. They are talking to us without being loud. So our instincts will guide us to the corners. And that's why most of the architectural designs for restaurants will give us less light around the perimeters and more in the center. So in this case, you see here, there's no light above in the area around the perimeter, just wall sconces and chandeliers and ceiling lights in the center. Start paying attention to that. In this case here, they just gave a lot of lighting to the entire space. But again, you see here how we have light right on the table, and here we have a chandelier instead to add a little extra shade. Now, take a look how lighting is important to attract people. We are beings naturally attracted by light. So this is an example on how perfect this is. So you're creating light right here below this counter surface, in the background of it, and also in the ceiling. But you're also creating opportunities for lounge areas with less lights around the perimeter. And that brings us to this important message. Lighting. Lighting creates a true effect on people and spaces. And what makes the lighting in a space enjoyable? It takes research and experience to provide this justification. And to simplify, I would like you to take a photo of this light or make notes. Let's think in layers, and I'm gonna summarize it in 3 layers. Layer 1 would be the visual task. What is the visual task? The visual task is providing enough light to recognize items or to be able to walk safely through a corridor, right? So let's say you are creating your new lighting project for your bedroom. So what are you going to recognize? I said, okay, I need lighting next to my bed because I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night, I go to the bathroom. So I got to make sure that from my bed to the bathroom, I have light to walk safely. Excellent. Now, layer 2. In general, lighting, I have to think about the ambient light. How am I going to have the general lighting? Well, to set the mood or impression, and maybe lighting provides for safe circulation within the space. Let's look below. Take a look at this first photo, please. You see how we're using the number 1 layer, identifying reading as being one of the main tasks here to walk safely towards here. So you add a light right above all the bookshelves. Now you're going to set the mood. You still want your lounge to be cozy, so you added a center chandelier to it. And now for layer 3, the visual interest, something that adds a touch of magic or something to tickle the user's joy button. That's my favorite part. Magic can be done through lighting. So in this example number 1, you see how lighting was added in a nice, it might be not real, but this nice fireplace here has all these candles inside, or you have a nice piece of art right above, and you chose to have a nice wall washer. That's how we call this type of lighting that will be directing light to the wall. So you choose to have a wall washer here and there, nice lighting inside a fireplace. In this case here, look at that. You probably didn't need this wall scones, but you chose as your layer number 3 to have your magic, your touch of magic. Same thing with this indirect light here. You chose that to add your ambient light, again, the chandelier to provide probably visual task, but you didn't need something here bouncing light to this beautiful planter. That was your joy button, right? Now, this is a very special one. These days, we have so many incredible options of lighting. Look at this beautiful bedroom. They just added a touch of magic. And this is another good example right here above, where not necessarily you had to be ordinary with lights coming from above, but you can choose your layer 1, providing enough light to recognize items or to be able to walk safely, coming bottom up, as long as your target is good enough to make this enough lighting for safety. Well, this is actually a project that it was created for residents where they were trying to work together in an office. And think about it. How is lighting going to affect 2 people working together here? So, first question, what are you looking for? What is showcased at your eye level? Usually in retail, we say eye level is bi level. Did you ever hear that term? Eye level is bi level? Then walk back to your memory where you can go to a pharmacy. First, you're looking for a toothpaste. The first place you're going to look is left to right at your eye level. Then if you don't find, you're probably going to look up. Then if you don't find up or eye level, then you're going to look down. Those are our human instincts, again, talking to us. No wonder why it's more expensive to have something at eye level than it is in the lower shelving units. So same applies to something like that. If you're considering natural light as important as artificial lighting, you got to understand at what level that is. So in this case, imagine one user is going to be working right here. The other user is going to be working right here. So what you're probably going to add is a table lamp, because this light is going to be great for ambient light, but it's going to be casting shadow on you when you're writing, correct? So you need to refer back to that image we had from the sculpture with key lighting, backlight, and fill light. Same thing is going to happen to us working in a table like this. So no wonder why you have to think about everything that is going to be around you. So for example, this is the research area of this project. So you need task light on top of this. This is probably illuminating it for you when you're opening these doors and when you're researching for books under this counter surface. But if you're working here, you still need more light. And when we spoke about colors, light in the beginning, we were talking about how it affects the colors. I even said how Takaho today we had a great day and how everybody was feeling blah because it does affect the color of everything around us. That's another good slide to take a photo. Um, this is called the Plutchik wheel of emotion, right? And this color here, you have inside all of our what it triggers on us. For example, green. There are in this four color of greens things that will feel inside, even if it's unconscious. This deep green here would be triggering our admiration, this trust, and this is towards acceptance. And the mix of that sometimes is love, sometimes is optimism, everything that is in between. And look at that. Would you imagine that this color pink can trigger anger? Right? It's weird, but this is all under the emotion concept, under this wheel of emotion. Well, from now on, I would like to touch on this 5 lines right here, which I think will be important to everybody, is start a personal notebook of quick emotions. That will be fun. Have it on you, and when you go to a place, any place, a dentist office, a police department, a village hall, or a nail salon, is start writing down what kind of emotion you feel when you walk in. Then write down what color temperature you see, very warm, very cold, and what colors you see around. And then you can compare with this. In this notebook, you can write down the place where you are, how the lighting is affecting your mood, how you're feeling. Then note where the source of light is coming from. Is it coming from the ceiling? Is it casting shadow on you? It's coming from the wall? Is it directly on your eyes? Sometimes it's bothering you. Or is it a table lamp, a floor lamp? Is it an indirect light like we saw in the ceiling? And put those pieces together. Say, how is that affecting me? Wow, I didn't realize, but I feel so much better in a space that has less light. Or I'm going to this restaurant and it feels so romantic. What is that? Or it feels so loud, or I want to get out of here. I'm not feeling comfortable. What are you feeling? And what colors are the light bulbs? Well, like we spoke before, they very yellow, very blue, or they are in between. Are there any types of shades covering the bulbs, like we saw those chandeliers? What is covering those light bulbs? Am I attracted to it? Am I deciding to sit in the shaded area? Am I going to the light? Is it changing the ambience? Would it look better or worse if the light was different? Or maybe is it too dark? Should I add a table lamp to my living room? All those questions. Keep those questions and answers in your notebook of quick emotions. Could be the same place where you're keeping your sketches. Why not, right? And as you know, I always save time to share with you the bibliography. Today, the bibliography that I'm suggesting is specifically for lighting. And because lighting can be a very extensive subject, and I try to group a few things here and there from residential to commercial to retail, I would like to suggest you these 2 books. I'm not married to the editions, right? These 2 are the 3rd editions from #1 book, Fundamentals of Lighting by Susan Winchip. This was the 3rd edition that I got a photo from. And this one, Lighting Design Basics, is a wonderful resource. I think most likely our library system might have it. If not in Takaho, we might have in other libraries. They will give you a lot more than what we just went through, but will make you comfortable with the idea that you can do it yourself. Why not? Especially in small projects where you are the main user, you're gonna love to see the changes. And sometimes it's as simple as buying a new light bulb and changing it around. Sometimes it's as simple as buying those chains, right? With light and putting it inside and say, wow, what did I just do? It looks terrific. Or buy new shades for your chandelier, seeing what the effect could be. And one of the places, and I like that this class is right before Halloween, that we can really enjoy the effect of lighting is during Halloween, where everybody's hanging lights, around their apartments, their houses, or their offices, right? So we start seeing all these changes or people doing decorations. Well, there's much more to see other than the book, and these are quick references. This one is specifically here, as you can see by the extension of this website, it will tell you how lighting affects mood and productivity. So if anybody watching us here today is interested in changing the productivity in either their home office or in their office, that's going to be such a great opportunity. The next um, website is going to tell us about, again, the psychology on how light color can impact our day by day routine. Then this one here is a very nice article in it towards health, how it also affects our health. House beautiful, it's for those who love doing decoration, but again, it talks about how lighting can affect the mood and our well-being. And Psychology Today, this is a blog, it's someone's opinion, but very interesting. People, place, and things, and how lighting choices can affect your mood. Again, a lot of different points of view, which I think are quite interesting to be seen by all of you on how it can open a different perspective on how lighting can definitely make a big change in everything around. Well, this one, the Stuart Lighting, it talks about the natural effects of light and also how you can radically lift the look of a space and your mood. So we have also this one here, the use of lamps to set the mood of your own home, and that's a nice guide. And finally, this one here, it talks extensively about architecture and psychology. I think you're going to find this article pretty interesting. I would love to hear feedback about it during next class. And even if you made some changes, how it impacted your routine. Could be your bedroom, could be your playroom, could be any place pretty much. But also, I'm curious to hear about your notes. Well, before we go into our gratitude at the end of the class and questions and answers, I would like to come together with the key points for our conclusion. Well, natural light has the potential to enhance people's mood, creativity, and cognitive performance. As you know, people do much better when they are in an office with natural lights than they do in those all enclosed offices with zero light. So sometimes people tend to go out more often or leave door open to be able to see natural light. That's our nature, human nature. So warm lighting can help the absence of the natural light. Warm light can help create a cozy social atmosphere, while the cool lighting can help create an atmosphere for focus and concentration. No wonder why, if you think about an operating room, you're going to think about that very blue light, correct? And then if you go to a grocery shop, everything will be so super warm to make the colors even brighter on the fruits and vegetables. Placing warmer light in tabletop and floor lamps and cooler light overhead reflects how light appears in nature. Yes, so that can be an interesting thing to do. The neuroscience research is clear. Some colors and intensities of light indoors create a better atmosphere for particular situations, while alternatives are found in settings where different sorts of thoughts and behaviors are most likely. But it's important to remember that sometimes darkness is wonderful. I know most of us prefer to sleep in a very dark room, right? So we get the blinds. Think about being in a fragrant meadow on a moonlit night, for example, or trying to fall asleep after a long, long day. Most of our life is lived in light. However, right? Natural light, daylight, is a sort of magic that does great things for what goes on in our minds. It has a powerful, and I say it again, it has a very powerful, nearly primordial effect on our well-being. A glare-free natural light boosts our mood, creativity, and our cognitive performance, for example. More positive moods are good things because besides their obvious implications for how we go about our life, when we are in a better mood, our ability to solve problems and get along with others, for example, improves. And all of that's great for not only us, but for the world in which we live. Correct? And I entered that into our conclusion because it goes back to our five senses, right? It's important. I guess it's good for everybody to make sure that we have the right lighting. So this would be the conclusion for our class about lighting. In next class, we're going to talk about interesting techniques on architecture, which is understanding the corporate, healthcare, and retail design. So when we go to a bank, when we go to a doctor's office, when we go to a mall, what is behind this architecture that we take for granted, we know, we enjoy, but we never pay attention? What are the details that make a big difference? And I'll share you one, for example. If you go to a doctor's office, I guarantee you that if it's well done, you will never have a sharp edge. We'll have edges all round, making sure that none of the patients are going to bump their hips or their arms and they won't get hurt. They'll make sure that the heights are appropriate for a patient to be able to lift, the kind of chairs, the kind of materials they're going to be upholstering those chairs so it's cleanable, stuff like that. We're going to learn next class. And as I said here, let's share a few key design secrets behind what we see wherever we go. And as you know, again, a thank you for all of you for being here today. Thank you, Jenny, for coming back always. Elaine for hosting beautifully. Agnes, Thomas, Louise, Marjorie, and Alice. Elaine, another Elaine, Susan, and B. The Harm, who are here today with us. Thank you so much. And a special thank you to the entire Takaho Public Library team who go, in my opinion, they all go above and beyond providing this beautiful programs to our community. It's amazing to see their hard work and it pays off. And of course, the Westchester County Board of Legislators. I always believe, I truly believe knowledge is a lifetime treasure that will follow us for the rest of our lives.